I'm Liz Van Vliet. Welcome to Being Indispensable, the podcast for executive and personal assistants. If, like me, you want to become indispensable to your manager, then this is the place where you'll get the tips and techniques and industry insights that will help you achieve exactly that. Well, hello, lovely, lovely listeners of Being Indispensable. I am so excited that I've actually gotten around not just to recording this episode, which is something I'm very excited about because I've been procrastinating about it, but the fact that this is my 50th podcast episode. And I am so excited about that because it is just such a personal achievement. And I've realized that, there's a lot of things that are, significant and reasons why this is something to be proud of. But really, at the end of the day, it's very personal. It's been a passion project, as you know, if you've been a long-time listener, but it has been something that has just been so rewarding for me on so many levels. And in recording this 50th episode, I've procrastinated because I really was struggling with how I wanted to go about it, what I actually wanted to say in my 50th episode. And as is often the case, at the end of the day for me, sometimes it just involves just getting on the microphone and recording and not overthinking things, because overthinking things has meant that I've not recorded anything for the past week or so. And, that's a dreadful shame because I would have liked to have done my 50th episode and been consistent in making it a week after my 49th episode was up on iTunes. But sadly, as a committee member of Overthinkers Anonymous, that was not to be. Anyway, so this is going to be a off-the-cuff road rambling episode brought to you by I'm currently sitting in the car park of our local garden centre because in being the queen of procrastination for the last week, instead of doing a podcast episode, I've been gardening. Yes, I love gardening. If you didn't already know that from my Instagram feed, gardening is another passion project that my husband would say drains the bank account. Anyway, moving right along. So quick episode to say very, very happy to get to episode number 50. And a couple of points that I wanted to mention in my ramble were that, it has been a passion project and, it has cost a fair amount of time and effort and money. And I want to give a shout out to my wonderful husband who has been not just along for the ride on these 50 episodes, but has just been along for the ride, generally speaking. And I heard a great quote on another podcast that apparently Sheryl Sandberg said it may have been her Lean In book. She said, the most valuable and important hire that you will make in terms of employees is the husband or the partner that you choose. I think she may have said partner. And in my case, I could not have made a better choice because my husband is Saint Mike, as you may know from listening to other episodes, and I love him dearly, but he is not just my biggest supporter, but he seriously is an absolute one-eyed fan. And even though, he knows all of my failings better than anyone, he's also somebody that is always there to tell me what a great job I'm doing and why continuing down this podcast road in the various times I've ended up off in the ditch, so to speak, thinking that, you know, it was something that I should just give up as a bad joke. He has been the one reminding me that there's so many reasons why I should keep going, and not the least of which is the sense of purpose that it's given me over the last 18 months. Actually, 18 months when you take into account the planning that went into it. Anyway, so just a shout out to my gorgeous husband who, you know, is my biggest supporter, and I love him dearly. And I want to also give a shout out to my gorgeous girls who we're going to feature in this episode. I was going to get them to do a little audio recording, so that'll be something that I'll get to in a further episode, I think, when I'm over this phase of self-doubt and procrastination. Anyway, yes, my gorgeous girls who are also huge supporters and have been absolutely wonderful in terms of just giving me lots of pats on the back and positive reinforcement. And that is just something that I'm so grateful to. And finally, I want to give a shout out to the lovely listeners that have stayed with me through this journey, many of whom have reached out and sent me the most beautiful, beautiful messages that I now keep in my trusty Evernote file of kick-ass feedback. And I can't thank you guys enough. And you know who you are, because it means so much to me to know that this passion project of mine has actually made a difference in people's lives in terms of reminding you that what you do every day and the trials and tribulations that come with it are actually appreciated, and they are appreciated by me. And I just feel, if I could possibly say that when I started this journey, it was about me learning about what it would take to be an indispensable assistant so that I could support my boss better. And as you know, if you've listened to the episodes where I've talked about the journey that I went on as an executive assistant, and how for the last 12 months I haven't even been in the role of executive assistant because for health reasons I couldn't hack the pace. But I've found that providing this podcast content has been so rewarding in terms of just continuing to develop my understanding of how complex and challenging this role is. And if there's one thing that I feel so strongly about, it's the fact that I really do believe that executive assistants do not get the credit that they deserve, and that they are not focused on in terms of their own development and the potential that so many of them and so many of you that listen to this podcast actually have to offer. And that's something that makes me feel so passionate about keeping up this podcast. So, you've got it continuing on. I can tell you that I will be continuing on, but I'm going to be honest and say that we're getting to that sort of pointy end of the year, and I've got a lot of stuff going on with those three gorgeous girls that I have, and one of whom has just started her HSC. And in Australia, we start HSC the final year of high school, where all of the pressure is on for getting into university based on your marks. And my oldest daughter has just, commenced that process this term. So, that's pressure that builds and builds for her, and I want to be there to support her. So I'm going to say that more than likely my podcast will continue to be fortnightly, because, I have a lot of things to focus on in terms of helping her with this journey that she's on for year 12. And I've got two other gorgeous girls that are got their own challenges going on, and I want to be there for them. So, just in closing, I want to finish off by thanking you again from the bottom of my heart for tuning in and downloading my episodes. I have managed to get past, can you believe it, 25,000 downloads of my podcast. And for me, that is just so awesome. But I have a real commitment to continuing to bring you episodes. And the podcast, as I've discussed, has changed over time. And although I will continue to bring you those solo episodes and interviews focusing on the skills, values and behaviours that make you a linchpin in your organisation and to the executive that you're working for, I'm also going to continue to talk about the aspect of being and how my experience of needing to focus on myself and my own welfare and my own, being a human being as opposed to a human doing will be more of a focus probably in this next 50 episodes. I hope that's good for you and I hope that works for you and I hope you keep on listening. And I would love it if you could share this episode with an executive assistant that you think would benefit from hearing the sorts of things that I talk about. But, the bottom line is that 50 episodes down, more to come. Bring on the next 50 and thank you for listening. Thanks for listening to Being Indispensable. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Why don't you subscribe so that you get episodes automatically? And I'd love it if you could leave a review. Head on over to my website, beingindispensable.com, for the show notes.